Hi everybody, welcome to the Des & Works channel, and it's here, the plating video. You'll see behind me that everything is set up on the bench, so this intro is coming post the process. So during this video I'm going to talk you through how I set up all the plating solutions. I'll talk you through how I prepped and then plated one of the components, which is the same process for everything. And then I'll show you the end results and talk you through some of the findings that I have learned as I went through the process of learning to plate. Hope you enjoy the video. Let's crack on with this. Okay then, so we're pretty much ready to set up. Here's mostly everything that I want to be plating. Here's the plating kit and everything that came in it. So you get instructions, some rubber gloves, you've got the zinc anodes, some copper wire, crocodile clips, some cabling, a resistor so that if you're using a direct power supply you can vary the amperage that goes through it, but I'm using obviously my transformer unit that I got. Then in the pack, chemical wise, you get dry acid salts, ammonium chloride. I think that's another pack of ammonium chloride in there. No, that's zinc chloride. There's the other ammonium chloride. You've got GP1 alkaline cleaner. Then the yellow passivate, clear blue passivate, and camera's playing up, and xylite. And then it came in a 10 litre tub. I've then bought some 12.5 litre tubs with lids to go on. This will be the tank that I'm going to use to put the plating solution into. So the zinc plate solution, so the anodes and everything will go in there. I've then got a water pump to keep the water moving around, because apparently agitated water for the zinc process works better. And then the water heater, so it recommends keeping the temperature up on the zinc plating tank as well. So that's the equipment, and just some supplementaries. What I'll be wearing is just a basic mask so I don't breathe any of the dust in when I pull this out, and eye protection for splashes, safety first. And I won't be wearing the t-shirt when I start playing around with this. What I'll be doing as well, just to make it slightly safer, because you've got to do this in a well ventilated area, I'm going to mix all the chemicals and everything outside the garage. So is the instructions. So I've read this multiple times just to work out what's the best way to do everything. So what I'm going to do in a second is I'm going to set up the plating tank ready to go. I won't put the anodes in yet. Then I will prep the rinse tanks for each stage, and then a passivate tank. So that's going to be my passivate tank. This is going to be my plating tank. These two will be rinse tanks. This will then be the cleaning solution to make sure everything's ready. And then I've got, and then I'll have a second rinse tank for the cleaning tank. So it's a 4-stage process, because I'll derust everything with deoxy. Then I will put it in for the GP1 cleaner to make sure that I've removed any of the last of the oils and everything. Then we will go into the plating tank. Then we will go into the passivate, and then I just got to hang everything up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I've got to set up the chemicals and the tanks, fill everything up. Then I'll take you through one of the stages of plating something. So what I might do is just do something nice and easy straight off. I might do this little bracket to show you how it is. Okay then, let's rig up the cabling so I'm able to hang off the zinc anodes correctly, and then we will start making up the chemical solution for the tank. Okay, to make the power supply for the anodes, what I've done is I have looped a piece of wire around the drum. I've left a spiral wound piece of wire just here on the casing to connect the power supply to. So when the fluid is in here, I can just connect up the zinc anodes, which have a hole in them conveniently, he says, as he tries to get that in. There we go. And then they'll just be suspended in there. Obviously I'll set this at the right height so that that the copper is not in the solution, because otherwise you get copper leaching and it affects the plating process, but that we've got the 3 anodes facing all one another, and that covers the whole part in the zinc plating process. Okay, next thing to do is to mix up the solution to go into here. Safety first, time to mix the chemicals. 2 bags of ammonia chloride to go in. 2 bags of zinc chloride. And then going to add 8 litres of distilled water and then mix it all up. Next we shake this up and drop this in. And then 4 caps of xylite maintenance. Just stir again. Then top up to 10 litres. So that's the plating mix now made up, with the heater in there, the pump, and I've got the cable ready to put the anodes onto, which is just held out of the way so it doesn't leach into the solution. Now these are 12.5 litre buckets, and that's 10 litres. I think for me, what I should do really is I should have got 15 litre buckets, so that would be my tip to you guys. Right, so as you can see there with the water moving around, got the pump in there now, just moving the water around. So hopefully that's all good. Let's put the heater on and bring the solution up to temperature. With these leads now, let's just pull it apart. On the connection I made up here, just gonna connect that up so this becomes my positive. I'm gonna use this old bit of bar stock across the top, and that will be where I hang off my parts. So as you can see, got the negative, the positive, and then the plating solution. I haven't got the anodes in there at the moment, and this is not switched on, so this is just in the setup stage. So that's the zinc plating tank ready to go pretty much. Just got to put the anodes on and then component, and then switch the power supply on. Now I'm going to prep a rinse tank for the plating tank, so that's just distilled water. So I'm going to top it up to about here. What I've also just done is put a mark where the level of the fluid is, which is roughly in line with where the wire was anyway. That helps me to know if there's any evaporation, so what you can do is just top that solution up with distilled water. I'm just keeping the cap on it just so that it remains safe. Next job is to make up the passivate, so let me get the safety gear back on and we'll do that. Right, that's actually 9.8 litres that it says it's got to go to. So going to add part A fluid, so give this a good shake up. And this is very corrosive, so safety gear again. Then add part B, so again shake it and just mix that in. And then give it a good stir up. And that's the yellow passivate made up. So just some rinse water for when we use the passivate. Okay, so lid's on. We've got the plating solution, plating rinse. We've got the passivate for yellow passivate solution, and then the passivate rinse. So the GP1 alkali cleaner is our rinse tank for making sure that all the oil and grease off. We've got a rinse tank for it. Going to be using Deox to get rid of any rust, rather than, they have a dry acid solution in here, but this does the same prep steps. So I've been playing around with that just to see where it gets to. There's a little bit of surface rust there because I've stripped all the plating and it's etched the surface ready to go. So what I should be doing is really taking them straight out of here, rinse them. So the stages will be alkaline cleaner, gets rid of all the oil and grease. Then I go for Deox, which I'll just do in little small batches. That will get me to this sort of stage where the bolts are clean of any rust and plating material and etched. Then they will go into the plating solution. Then they will be plating rinsed. And then as soon as they come out of there, straight into the yellow passivate, into the passivate rinse, and then I'm just going to hang them up on my paddock stands, basically, let them dry out, and hopefully we shall have some plated bolts. What I'm going to do is show the benefit of this concentrated rust remover with this pile of rusty bits and the couple that have come out of the alkaline solution. There's some standard plated bolts that will be getting done as well, and then this is the test piece that I'm going to take you through the whole process start to finish. But I want to just show you how well these come up with the rust removal first, because it's a really cracking process with this Deox C, which I got from OP Oils. Let's mix this up and I'll show you how it works. So all I've been doing, liberal spreading of the Deox, and then some boiling water, you can see straight away the bubbling action as it starts eating into the rust. I'll just hold that back. Now you can see that action as it just starts to eat into the plating in the rust. Give it a good swill about so it can start doing its magic and everything's spaced out in there. Right, let's leave that for probably about 20 or 30 minutes and come back to it and check out how that's done for rust removal. So everything's been soaking in the acid to de-rust, and you can see that actually the bolts and everything are coming up quite good. Obviously they're tarnished because they've been corroded before, but as they're being replated it shouldn't be too bad. Where it does create a bit of an issue is like here, there's copper grease on there, it doesn't break it down, so I might have a little bit of corrosion behind there, so there's some stuff I need to clean. So that was really corroded, and it's still probably needs a bit of mechanical touch up just to get rid of some of the deep rooted stuff, but that's not too bad. And some of the smaller bolts that were really corroded, just tarnished now. let me just get those all out of there and just give them a clean up and see where we're at in terms of what further work's needed. Right, so I've just rinsed them off just in tap water. I've rinsed them off just in tap water, and you can just see, if you think about how much corrosion there was in these bolts before I started, you can see that it's come up quite well as a first pass. It's got some thread lock on that. There's some deep rooted corrosion in bolts like that, which, although it cleans it back, the metal's quite pitted. But you know, there's the sprocket guard, which was just a big rusty lump, and that's the bottom fairing joint, so it sits in the belly pan. So that's come up okay. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give them one more soak in acid, just to hopefully try and get rid of some of these last little bits, and then I'm just going to plate those. So there's an update on the rust treatment now. So this is the second stage. You'll see now that, remember how rusty that was when it started? No corrosion on there at all. Bolts, even the really heavily scored ones, are starting to come up. That would, with a bit of mechanical assistance like a wire wheel or something, would get that last little bit off. But you can see how well the treatment works. And there you go, post rinse, just to show you, if you remember what that was like as a collection of rusty bolts. So we've got those two bad ones where the actual bolts are damaged where the corrosion was so bad. So I may or may not plate them. I'll give those I'll separate those and clean those mechanically. But you can see everything else, even some of these that were really, really bad, have cleaned up quite nice. That's the most impressive one, the bottom fairing plate, which was just one big rusty lump, and that's all good. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly immerse this into the alkaline solution to just make sure there's no oil and grease in there, and then we'll give it a final acid etch before we plate all of these bits and pieces. Okay, so let's talk about getting this little piece replated so I can give you an example of how that's done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in the alkaline cleaner first, along with some other bits. I'll just leave that in there to soak and just make sure that get all the oil and grease off of that. Okay, so that's the battery retaining clip that's been soaking in the alkali GP1 cleaner overnight. So let's just rinse that. So that's that rinsed off. What I'm going to do now, just etch the surface with this rust remover, because this is how I've found it works best. And you'll see that that's just fizzing away nicely. That will get rid of any of the last corrosion and etch the surface for the plating. I'll give it about 5 minutes in there just to make sure it's done a good job, and then we'll take it out and clean it and wire it up for plating. So I've just rinsed that off, and you can see we've got a nice bare metal. So just gonna connect it to some copper wire. Because I've touched it a little bit, I'm just going to re-dip it in the acid just to get rid of any oils. Re-rinse it. Then connect to the plating solution tank. So I want to rest it about halfway. So you see it's suspended nicely in there now. Then switch on power supply, and that's, yeah, leave it at 2 amps, and then I'm going to leave that in there for about 20 minutes or so. And you can see the copper wire's got plating on it already, so the plating action's already started. So let's leave that for 20 minutes and come back and see what that looks like. Okay, so that's been in there for a while, so let's turn off the power supply. It's got a little bit of shadow in, and that's just because of the shape of the part I found. Let's rinse that, just in the water there. And then all we do for roughly 15 seconds, just dip in the passivate and just turn it gently. And then just rinse off. And there you go. One lovely plated battery cover. Just got to hang that up now for 40 hours just for the plating to dry off, but I think you'll agree that that part looks really good. By the way, I've taken lots of practice to get it right. So I've sussed out now the right amount of plating time plus about 15 seconds counted to myself has given me that nice golden colour. Okay, and that's it. That's how to plate with your own kit. I'm going to finish all these parts off and I'll show you the completed collection hopefully when we start putting everything back together. Okay, so first round of plating's done. What did I learn from the process? You'll notice everything's got a slightly different hue of yellow passivate, and that's because I learned as I was going through how long to plate bits and pieces for. So everything's plated, but you'll see that that is slightly dull with the passivate applied to it, whereas let's pick one, a really good one from the end. This one here has got a lovely golden yellow shine to it, come up really nice. And the battery clip that I took you through the process of now is dried out, is really nice. You know, that looks factory fresh, which is not bad for a old piece of metal that's been sat on a bike for a fair few years. Some of the bits really did come up well as I got much better at the process. And then just to show you how good something it can polish a turd, as they say, this was one of those really rusty bolts, so it's got quite a lot of pitting where we got the rust off of it, but I mean, because I'm not doing a concours restoration, that's perfectly usable and it's protected again, whereas like one of the ones that come up really nice is got a lovely mirrored finish to it. That was the big rusty bolt. Again, it's got some surfaced pitting on it, but you know, if I was doing a concours restoration, I'd have got a new bolt rather than reusing that, whereas the one that was in good conditions come up really nice. That was our really rusty sprocket retaining spacer, the engine spacers, tank prop, which again was quite rusty, had a fair bit of surface pitting in it, but it's not too bad. And then we've got the rear spindle spacers brackets that go on swing arm, and that's that really crappy rusty bottom fairing bracket piece. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with that. There's a fair few bolts that, if you remember when we were stripping the bike down, were damaged, so I'll have to get replacements. So I've got tons of spares, so I'll probably just plate up some new ones. So that was it. Now that I'm not using the plating solution, they recommend to take out the zinc plates, just so that they don't leach too much into the fluid. This is all in these food grade sealable lids, so it's safe to stow now. So I've finished doing that. Oh, that's the front grille from the V-piece, which was painted, but I'm just acid stripping the paint off, and I'll just repaint that black again. I'm not gonna zinc plate that. Okay, just to give a quick update on what the next video will be about, it will be stripping this bad boy down so that we can work out what we need to do to the engine. Obviously a lot of this needs painting, so I haven't worked out whether I'm going to send it away to be vapor blasted and coated by somebody else, or whether I'll get it vapor blasted back and then paint it myself. But I've got lots to do on this. Obviously I want to rebuild the engine and I want to get it to a nice condition. And what I might do as well is, when all the bolts are off, I'll clean all those up and replate them as well, just so that we get a whole matching set of plated bolts, both for the bike itself and the engine. And we need to work out what the clutch problem was as well. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed that. Plating was a totally new experience for me. I've learned loads going through the process. Although I only took you through that piece that I did, which was towards the end and why it looks so good, the process was the same for everything. It was just a case of experimenting with getting the right voltage, the right currents for how many parts you put in, and they recommend about 0.1 of an amp for every 1 square inch of surface area that you're covering. To do something like that, it was quite easy for me to work that out, but when I was doing lots of bolts all strung together, I had to play about a little bit. And the guide that they sort of said in the plating solution is, if you can just see small bubbles forming off of it, it's plating correctly. And then leave it for, now I've worked out, to get the really nice finish, I was working on about 30 minutes in the plating solution, and then I was counting to 15 in the passivate, and that was giving me the really nice yellowed finished chromy looking bolts. So yeah, I'll certainly be doing this again. I'll buy some more fluids just to top up and keep that solution in good condition. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, chuck us a like down below. Any questions or comments on this process, then please feel free to ask, and I shall impart my limited knowledge to you. And if you're not a subscriber to the channel, would really welcome you as a subscriber. And if you're a current subscriber, thank you very much for the support, and keep watching, and I'll see you all for the next video. Cheers then, bye.